All right. Good evening, everybody. Tuning in, and if you are watching us on replay, thank you very much. I am Genevieve, and welcome to the I Am Fearless interview series. Tonight, I am interviewing Lorenzo McNulty. Yes?
Correct. Yes.
Yeah. Author of A Girl's Gotta Have Her Own Money. And that's what we are going to be talking about tonight, money and women. Not in that way, but you know. So Lorenzo, please introduce yourself.
Like you said, my name is Lorenzo McNulty. I am the owner and founder of Lorenzo Leads, which is a leadership and finance company. And we believe that better leaders cultivate better people, and thus we can create a better world. So that's our mission statement. And we go out of our way to make sure that people understand that we're all leaders and that we all have an ability to control our financial destinies. And that's what we help people, tie into.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. So I read your book, and I know that you are an ex-Marine. Is that right?
Correct.
Yeah. So how did you get into doing what you are doing today? How did you get into finance?
I worked for 2 Fortune 100 companies, and I had the privilege of managing or being in positions of leadership within both of them. And that gave me a little bit of access to how they did their finances, how they budgeted, the accounting. Of course, I got really, really familiar with some of the people in accounting. And the way that I started thinking about finance sincerely, truly, was when in the beginning of the book, like you said that you read and everything like that, I come from a single parent household primarily. It was myself and my 2 brothers. I'm the oldest of 3 boys. And I got a phone call one day as I was working at Radio Shack, and this was in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. Down, every time I say Mississippi, someone says Mississippi, but I don't have the accent anymore. I've been gone for a little bit. But my brother called and he said 2 words to me that had changed, that was basically changing my life at the time that I was hearing them. And he told me that Don died, who was my stepfather, and this was the only companion that my mom had at this particular point. He handled all of the finances. He handled all of the bills. It was in that culture, it's the man brings home the bacon, more or less. Even though my mom has worked her entire life and worked very hard, and she's my inspiration for working as hard as I do. But I remember that ride, and it kind of dawned on me where I was. It was a 2-hour drive to the hospital to where I had to go. And you can't imagine how silent it is and how loud your thoughts become as, I'm the oldest son, like I said, and up until that point, it was me, it was, I didn't have an answer, to know an answer, to find an answer to all of the different things that we were tasked with at the time, being the oldest boy. And all I could think of was, how is my mom going to make this transition? And as I continued to grow, what I started to recognize was that we didn't have the financial education. And at this particular point, I'll say that we all have the same obstacle. We all have the same challenge in the world, which is the miseducation. We're oftentimes miseducated about a lot of different things. And it took me losing $18,000 in one walk for me to really just hone in and focus on the finance part and realize that I could control it. Coming in the housing projects in Mississippi, you always say they, because they had all the power, they had all the money, they told you which direction to go and which direction to grow. And then the Marine Corps taught me that they build your confidence, if you will. Marines are some very confident individuals. But they taught me that I can control my destiny, and I needed to do some simple tweaks in my life in order to do that. So, like I said, I ended up finding out the hard way that I had lost $18,000, and it was just me, because I'm married. I got 3 kids. 2 live with me, and it was us. It was the household that had lost this $18,000, and I was responsible for it. And it made me start to reflect, because I'm a puzzle guy. I need to know why. I like to solve and understand why things happen. So I started to look back, and I started to reflect on all the steps that I had taken that had gotten me to that point, and just found out that I was severely miseducated when it came to finance. Almost shameful. Once I came out of the pity party for myself, I decided I was going to do something about it. And I just started reading articles everywhere I could find them about money and finance and growing your wealth and building your financial future. And I forget where the turning point actually happened in regards to that, because my wife always tells our daughter that a girl's got to have her own money. That's just something she instills in her from the beginning. And it made me go back to that moment to where my mom was essentially casted into this space by herself, to where she now has to assume all of the financial responsibilities that she didn't necessarily know anything about. Right. And, during those readings, I found out that 1 in 3 women in America are in poverty.
I saw the statistics from your book. It's alarming.
It absolutely is alarming, and it resonated with me because For My Girls was written for my 4 girls. My wife, my mom, my 2 daughters, right? And so there's 4 right there. So chances are one of them will be in poverty, or according to the statistic. And so how do I impact that? Right. How do I personally change that, or do something to change the trajectory of all the ladies that are in my immediate life? And that's where the book kind of started to come about, because a man once told me that history is written. He didn't say it was spoken. He didn't say it was, even though we speak it and it's recorded on video. But think about the books. People say if you want to learn something, open a book. Right. Yes. And books are eternal, no matter how digital we become in the age. But books are eternal, because history is. That's true. So I decided to put it to paper, in hopes that it would outlast me. And they'll always a resource, and just to show them that I wanted them to have these things. And I believe that some of the things that we talk about in there, of course, the personal aspect, because I like to be transparent. I want you to know that I've got skin in this game. I got the bruises to show you what I'm telling you about right now, and I'm just trying to be authentic along the way.
Brilliant. I have I have highlighted the notes that struck with me when I was reading your book. And at the beginning, you say that we are the gardeners of our girls. No, we are the gardeners, and our girls are our fields. Tend to them with care, and they will produce well. That to me, that tells me that was your inspiration, as you said, that led you to write this book, and like nurturing the girls from an early age is what is going to help them, to bear the fruits, hopefully in abundance. Absolutely. As they grow.
Absolutely. That quote actually came from my grandmother. In Mississippi, we kind of grew up on a farm. I say kind of. We had, the whole host of animals that were out there. But one of the things that my grandmother made sure that we knew was how to take care of yourself, and in taking care of yourself, how do you feed yourself from the land? Should it all go burn away and nobody's stocking up stores anymore, what do you do to survive, to continue to grow? And gardening was one of those things. And we used to have these long talks. At the point that I was having them, it was hot in Mississippi. It's really hot.
Yeah.
We're out in the garden. She's giving me these talks and telling me about life and things that I didn't understand until I had grown much older. But that was one of the things that stuck with me. And it was, take your time with the things that are important to you. Be careful of what you plant into your garden, because those things will grow, and they'll come to a point to where they're stronger than you. They'll either nourish you or they'll shelter you, or they'll tear you down, just depending on what you plant in there. I'm feeling that again, but she just told me to do everything that I do with care and try to grow everything that I touch and leave it better than when I met it. And I took that very seriously, and I try to apply that to every aspect of my life. But my girls are my jewels, and as I polish them every day, I feel like they'll shine forever, if that makes sense.
It does. It does. I have 3 boys. So do you think that if you have had boys instead of girls, do you think it would have been different?
Absolutely. And in a part of the book, I mentioned my son, because I do have a little boy, and the statistics don't talk about. And he's a little brown boy, so he's going to grow up with some of those same challenges that I grew up with, and yet still he's a man. Our society caters to the man, and him and his guys. And here's one of the other statistics that I learned: women don't talk to each other about money. They don't talk to each other about finances, and that's, in a way, I don't want to say handicap, but it's a wall. It presents an obstacle for you, because there's tons and tons of brilliant people out here in the world, and books, you can read them all day, but experience teaches you something that you can't read in books, right? So if I'm talking to you right now, and you have this experience that you can share with me, and as we become adults, we go into this adult learning thing too. And there's a certain way we like to learn things, and there's a certain way we remember things. And conversation is one of those ways,
Yes.
and it's kind of impressive that, and I speaking as from the statistics that I've been reading, is that women would choose to keep it to themselves and struggle through it than to let another lady know that they're vulnerable, let someone else know that, and men have that vulnerability issue also. Our ego stands in the way of tons and tons of stuff that we could be much, much better at. But we talk about money. We're expected to have money. We're expected to make money. I think we're up to almost 80 cents on the dollar as far as what a woman is getting paid, to a man. And what we don't see is that 20 cent gap over a period of 40 years or however long it takes most average people to retire, that's a lot. And they say that a man retires on 80% of his last income. That's what they say. And so if that's 80%, right, for a man, then you have to take 80% of that 80% for a woman, right? And so that's even less. And there's a statistic that says that women 65 years or older don't have the money to supply their basic needs.
I saw that. That's terrible, and that's the reason why I think, and that's like a global phenomenon, where you see older women, 65 plus, 70 years old, still working.
Absolutely.
Because they cannot survive.
You're right. My mom is 50. What am I? 34. She is 55. She'll be 55 this year, and still working. She's she's the type of person that wants to work anyway. But as her son, as the the man of the house, essentially, I don't want her to work, but it's one of those circumstances. 1 in 3 will be working until they're in the grave. And I hate to think about it like that, but it's real, and those are the conversations that I think that we need to be having, men and women. And Gandhi once said to be the change that you want to see. And one of the things that I know about resolve is that in order to resolve, you have to get the person opposed to you to start seeing things your way, right? So now I'm one man who knows that women aren't being treated fairly. They're not being paid equally. There's no equity in the promotions and all of these different things. So where do I stand? And I have to stand on the side of equality, and I have to act on the side of equality as well.
That's great. So that's one thing, and that's one picture that society is painting when we act within the walls of society. Now, with entrepreneurship, I think women are gaining so much more freedom of breaking the ceiling of that gap between men and women, and some of us are just killing it. But the problem is now the fact that some women are making more money than men is affecting their relationships.
True. That is very true. I was reading on Forbes.com a little while ago about the what is it, fempreneurial boom, and so a little background. Now, it's a reason that the book is called "A Girl's Gotta Have Her Own Money," and there's a couple different reasons. Before I decided I was going to put that to paper, I thought about it for a while, and I thought about my buddies growing up, and so the way that I see it, and my men that are watching the replay, don't be offended. However, the way that our world is going, the way that our society is going, our women are growing at a rapid rate. The entrepreneurship is booming at this particular point. And when you look at the demographic where it is booming, it's women. When you look at the demographic who are reading more, who are graduating more, who are doing all of these things to better themselves, you can't deny, our women. You can't deny them because they are growing rapidly. And I can't even, put a number on it right now. But the last time I looked, it was almost a 3-to-1 ratio, which is, when you think about it, there's supposed to be, what is it? What are we? 3-to-1 ratio of women to men in America. And so at that rate, times another 3-to-1. So if that can do the math in your head a little bit, it's a lot, So when I started to put it on paper, I knew that for one, my daughter was very, very supportive of it. The one who's knocking on my door right now, trying to come in. But she needs it, and I want her to be in a position where she doesn't have to have anyone, if that makes sense. I don't want it to sound wrong. If she chooses, I wanted her to understand, the CEO approach to everything, because, she is her business. She is her company. Her life is her business. And what she does with her life is going to determine how big that business becomes or how small it shrinks. And those are different things that we talk about a lot. And, and she's not making corporate decisions, obviously, but we try to help her think long term. So, yes, our emotions make us want to make a decision right now. But for the empire, for the company, for the business, for yourself, what happens as a result of the decisions that you make immediately, and consider those and then think a little bit longer term.
Great. So now let's talk about the scarcity mentality, which is, I don't know how to say the word in English, but in French it's a fléau, like a plague.
Yes.
Is that right? Yeah.
Absolutely.
That unfortunately, even if like lots of women are getting into entrepreneurship, we are still coming in with that scarcity mentality because that's all we know, and that's all we've been taught, and that's what we have inherited. And doing the work of undoing that scarcity mentality is crucial, but at the same time is the hardest part. Because for me personally, my personal experience was like, I started at age 23 working for Louis Vuitton. It's just the #1 luxury group in the world. But even if I was earning a good pay for my age at the time, I could never, one, make it through the whole month, and two, save money. It was just impossible. And I couldn't understand, even with the bonuses. And when I look back, I was like, wow, like, girl, you made some serious money, but where is it today?
Like tax season. For the longest, I'm guilty of that too. So, and when I notice it most is tax season, when they say you made X amount of dollars, and then you start to think about, where did this X amount of dollars go, right? And it's largely due to that, the plague that we're talking about is that scarcity mentality, and it's ingrained. It's a behavior, and so the way that we overcome it is, first we have to acknowledge that it exists, right? Any problem that we want to fix or behavior that we want to correct, we have to acknowledge that it is a behavior, right? Whether we like it, whether it's ugly, pretty, whatever it is, we have to acknowledge it. And so, but in doing that, it puts it in front of your face. It's like when the doctor tells you that, hey, you need to drop, I don't know, 10 pounds or your life's over, whatever he tells you. He says that to you. What happens is you automatically start thinking about what you've eaten and what you will eat going forward, right? And that's just acknowledgement that there's an issue there, and whatever. So our issue, from what I see, and in talking to a lot of ladies, because there's a fear that all of us will end up as bag ladies at the end of our life. We won't have enough to make it to this point, because we've experienced having way more months than we had money left, right? We've experienced the poverty. We've experienced what they show us, that there's not enough. And even though I know you're in the UK, but in the US, which is supposed to be considered one of the wealthiest nations in the world, there's enough currency floating around in the United States to put about $4,000 in every pocket of every man, woman, and child. And that's 320 million people roughly. Right. Yeah. So it's an incredible thing, but at the same time, we get, it's our education source. Right. And I'm a proponent for educating yourself. I'm a proponent for learning, but we need to know how to learn, because if we're learning everything from the TV, what direction we're going to go in, whatever direction the TV tells us. Right.
That's true.
No one's ever found a purpose on TV. You find your purpose in yourself. Find your purpose in your belief system, and those things. The scarcity mentality is challenging because everyone in the world experiences it, And we have this mentality that tends to say only one of us can be really great.
That's
right?
true.
But only one of us. There can only be one Beyonce. There can only be one Michael Jackson. There can only be, one. And so, but what that is that subconsciously gives us an excuse to not try as hard as we possibly could. Right. Then it takes those failures, it takes those falls, and us realizing, oh goodness, I'm still alive after this. I can do something, I can potentially grow somewhere from here. And that's why I think Tony Robbins once was talking about how failures cause you to reflect, and successes cause you to party. You don't learn anything from successes. You find out, well, you don't learn the way that you learn from failures from successes. And so you said something really important at the very beginning, where you were talking about how it's difficult to get away from it, and always tell the story of how my mom wasn't financially educated, so how could she have taught me? So she taught me exactly what she had been taught, which was what she knew, and I could have done two things with it. One, I could have been okay with what she taught me and not wanted to gain anything else, which is a real existence in this world. Or I could have tried to use that as a foundation. And even if I don't become a billionaire, I'm still shooting for it. And chances are I'll have a couple thousand, couple 100,000 or whatever, but it just depends on how your goals are. And we need people like you. We need people, the fearless coach. We need you out there. We need you inspiring these people and telling them that it's okay to be different. It's okay to, sorry, I got an alarm going off, but it's okay to embrace your purpose, because your purpose is going to take you into that place of abundance. It's going to tell you that, hey man, there's enough land here. There's enough houses for you to get one. There's enough for you to make a record. There's enough fans for you to have some, or whatever your dream is. But we often find ourselves in that position of where, man, I should have listened to my gut. I should have went with my first instinct,
Yes.
and what that is your purpose. That's your compass. Right? That gut feeling, we call it a gut feeling, that's your compass. And it is going to do everything that it possibly can to get you to embrace your purpose. Right?
That's true.
But everybody doing everything else, and it's, I hate to use this term, but it's easy to be stupid, right? Intelligence work. Like, you get a degree after 4 years of college, right? You gotta be persistent. You gotta go and challenge. You can stay at home, you could skip class, you can do all those things. You're not going to be rewarded. And another challenge in our society these days is that we want to reward everybody for the things that they should be doing anyway. So we're creating a cloud of mediocrity. And everybody can hide in this cloud because nobody is going to get ahead of anybody else. And, so we all keep that scarcity mentality, because what my buddy over here does, my buddy over there does, and they're all saying things that are going to help me stay comfortable in this scarcity mentality. Right. And then you see all these different budgets. Everybody talks about budgeting, and I specifically do not talk about budgeting, because to me, budgeting is difficult. It's hard. It's tedious. It takes all types of work. And at the cusper, I'm in between generations, the millennials and the Gen Xers. And so I'm in the information age where I want stuff now. I want to see it now. So how do I do that? And when I say the word budget to people, they get sweaty hands. They're like, what do I have to give up? I'm gonna have to starve myself. I can't go out anymore. And that's what they think, because that's what our society has told you to think. And so the way that like I said, you have to acknowledge whatever your obstacle is, acknowledge it, put it clear, make it plain, and then you have to figure out what works for you. Right? because to me, I don't like to do budgeting, and I'll tell you that up front. But what I've found out is that I still need to find a way to maximize my money. You know, I had to figure out a way around it. Even if I didn't like budgeting, I still needed to acquire wealth, and I still needed to put it away to last, to grow it, and all of these different things. And so that's where I started using the CEO approach, as you've read in the book. But what it does is I run my life like a company. And so, for instance, the last company I worked for reported $22 billion a year in revenue, right? And so being abreast of some of the finance people, some of the accounting individuals, they showed me a breakdown of how the CEO gets paid, and then the money kind of trickles down. But then you have your advertising expenses, you've got healthcare expenses, you got all these different things, and you are the exact same way. Right? Your life is your business. You know, you pay yourself a salary, and then you care of all your operating costs and everything like that. And in the book, you see the buckets and the way that it's broken down that way. But it's a psychological trick is what it is, but it works. Right? So you know what I'm saying? And people are growing their nest eggs right now. People have safety nets that they didn't have before, because budgeting, they had that money readily available in their savings accounts and they blew through it, right? What's the good of a budget? You can't hold the money for an entire month, you know, because you will still be faced with those breaking of those habits where you have more month left than you have cash. And so what do you know, I read a book by, it wasn't a book, excuse me. I read an article that they did an interview on Warren Buffett, and he was talking about how we have spending habits, right? And we're afraid of a challenge. And no matter what you do, if you have access to it, your excess will eat it up, right? So every time we get a promotion, we want excess. We keep going up until we meet that threshold, and then what do we need? We need more dollars, right? And then what happens? We meet that threshold as well, because we go from Levi jeans to Balmain jeans, you know. And I had an issue.
Yes, talk about those Balmain jeans.
I had an issue with that, and I desired them. I wanted them so bad, and then I really started to think about just money mapping and what I can do, what will pay me back. You know, and I think that comes with, once you align with your purpose, you start to notice that things gravitate to you that are going to support you in your purpose. It's true. Law of attraction. It's going to happen. What you believe in is what you're going to attract in this world. And so, but I lost my whole track there. But I hated budgeting. Warren Buffett told me, he's a mentor of mine. He doesn't know he's a mentor of mine, but he is. That it wasn't about the amount of money you make; it's about the amount of money you keep. And so
you kept.
Exactly. You kept it, and then I watched it grow. You know, and I'm launching this class called Finance You, and it's the cash class. But what it does is it just teaches you how this method of growing cash, because like I said, we're in that generation of instant gratification. So we need to be able to see, right? If I put $1 in there, I want to see that dollar start multiplying, you know?
Yes.
And overcoming that miseducation, because we can't stay quiet about it anymore unless we want to be in a nursing home or something later, which I don't want to be. I want to retire on the beach. And just, you know, hey, I'm right there with you. But it is difficult. I tell people all the time when I talk to them, I am not a get rich quick type of guy. You know, I've seen a lot of money come fast, and I've seen a lot of money leave equally or faster. You know,
that's it. Yeah. And I think it's very important to have that education. If us women are going to be making money and making loads of it. That education needs to be there. Otherwise, we're just gonna, like a hamster on a wheel. We're just gonna keep going, making money, but at the end of the day, making money, but not seeing any of it, because.
Absolutely. And the CEO approach kind of comes in there to be like a checks and balances, because every entrepreneurs especially know this, because I've seen a lot of people report that I'm doing $8,000 a month, or I'm doing $2,000, whatever it is that their number is that they're doing a month. However, they have an operating cost that is, you know what I'm saying, equally as high or higher. What's happening? You're not building wealth, when your cash outflow is greater than your inflow. You just can't do it.
That's it.
You're accumulating debt, and that's the opposite of building wealth. Accumulating debt is directly opposite of wealth building. So those are some of the things you have to be mindful of. But with that approach in the book, it teaches you to allocate wealth to those different places. You obviously, your fund, your operating costs, whatever falls into those buckets, and invest. Put money somewhere that money will make $1 for you, and and then just watch it.
Yeah.
People always said that patience is a virtue. They don't tie finance to it a lot, but patience is a virtue when you're growing finance.
Well, yeah, and I think that moving from just making money to building wealth is really where we need to go. It's not just about making money, right?
Yeah,
it's about building that wealth.
And you're absolutely right. And there is a division there, because making money is it's a cycle. It's that rat race, that you're gonna make it. You can make it all day, and what are you doing with it? Because that's where you're building the wealth part comes in. Because now
that's it.
You see the cycle of making money. What are you doing over here that's building your wealth? What are you how are you investing in yourself? Because that's wealth as well. And I think I'm an advocate of reading, taking classes, getting coaches, all these different things, because these people are good. These people are brilliant.
Yes.
And they have a knowledge base. You can get 15 years of knowledge in an hour from a coach if you are willing to invest in that. You know what I'm saying? Instead of having to wait 15 years, going through all the hardships and the trips and the falls, I can talk to you for an hour. And, exchange dollars for knowledge. Absolutely. Yeah. But we don't have that scarcity mentality, though.
That's still where a lot of people, and specifically women, are struggling in. Seeing the return in that investment in themselves. It makes such a huge difference when you have someone in front of you who can pinpoint exactly where your blocks are and guide you to a path where, like, you're going to be set free. But there's this fear that is attached to money, whereby they think that, oh my God, I'm going to give that person like 105, like 1,500 or 2K or just 500 pounds that I'm going to lose. But no, you are not losing it. It's an investment.
It's the changing of your mentality from spending to investing. Because
that's it.
They look at a coach like a pair of jeans, right?
Yes.
So if this pair of jeans costs $1,300, and I spend $1,300, all I get is a pair of jeans, and that's as far as those jeans will go, right? Now, if I take that mentality of spending away, and I put that mentality of investing, so I invest this $1,300 not into someone else, because it's not about the coach, it's about me. I'm investing that in
true.
Right? And so I'm taking a knowledge base. It's just like learning your ABCs at first. You invested the time, learn your ABCs at first, and now look at you. You're reading, you're able to comprehend, you're communicating. All those things stem from the investment of time in learning your ABCs, right?
And that's true.
Kids get it. Adults, we get away from it, and we just don't get it anymore sometimes. So.
Yeah, that's so true. Let's talk about abundance.
Okay.
And how we are surrounded by abundance, and that's not just, you know, some fantasy or some sweet words coming out of my mouth. That is the truth that I believe, and you talk about it in your book as well. We are surrounded literally by abundance, but it's about understanding what does abundance mean.
You know, abundance means to me. You need medicine? Perfect. Sorry. I got a sick in here. But abundance to me, and this is the definition that I use, is never having a want.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
You know.
I'll say that again. Say that again.
Right. Abundance to me means that you never have a want, right? Mm-hmm. And when you live abundantly, it makes that transition from spending to investing a whole lot easier. I was in the mall today in one of my favorite stores, and I didn't need anything. You know, I wanted some things. I thought they were nice, but I didn't need anything. And you realize in that thought process, in that abundance thinking, that the things that you desire, they can't give you $1 for it. You know, you can't exchange $1 for those things. And it is one of the most freeing feelings that I think that I've ever experienced, and you know, and trying to help people transition from that, because we all have that capability of thinking abundantly. We've been in a box for so long, and we have everyone around us trying to make sure we stay in that box and stay neat so that we don't disrupt them, you know, because if you're achieving something, that forces me to acknowledge what I am or am not doing. That's true. Sometimes I'm not going to like it, right? But you shouldn't be afraid of what I think about you achieving something, right? The math just doesn't work well. So that's what abundance means to me.
That's so true. And because that feeling of wanting is to me is the reason why there's lack. Because when you want, you acknowledge that it's not there. So as long as you are wanting, well, you're just going to keep living the same nightmare, right? If not dream, you're going to keep wanting, and it's not going to be there. You're going to keep chasing it, and it's going to keep running and far away from you.
And that's so true. That's so true. I recall this, you know, I grew up in the projects, and my brothers and I, we kind of shared clothes and things of that nature. So we couldn't afford the most expensive shoes. And I remember going to the gym, and, you know, cheap shoes don't do well on a basketball court. I'll just say that, you know, but I played a lot of basketball in the backyards and stuff like that. But once I got on the court, I couldn't be as effective because my shoes weren't good. And so I ended up getting a job, progressing and things of that nature. And I found myself just buying shoe after shoe after shoe after shoe, trying to replace that feeling of, you know, my classmates making fun of me for not having the latest style shoes and things of that. But after a while, I found that I just had a bunch of things that didn't really mean anything to me. You know, I had a closet full of shoes that really, for what reason? You know, it doesn't matter what I'm wearing. It doesn't matter, you know, where I'm going. What matters to me is what I think about me, right? And we can get so caught up in what everyone else thinks about us to where it forces us into those places where we feel like we have to have the latest things. We have to, you know, and and like you said, you acknowledge that it's not there. And as soon as you do that, your mind can only focus on how do I make it show up.
That's it.
Right.
That's it.
But also, you know, contrarily, it's powerful because you can also acknowledge that you don't have the knowledge to be rich. You know, you don't have the knowledge to be successful. So that knowledge isn't there. So your mind mentally goes and wants to seek. It wants to grab all of the things that will make you what you want to be. And we're created that way. You know, we fight everything that we were created to be all day, every day, you know, to impress people who can't go with us. You know, these people can't go with us. You know, I once wrote this book. My first actual literary work was called Secrets to Success. And in that little book, I talk about your atmosphere and how critical it is to control the things that enter your atmosphere, because whether or not we use the power, we have the power to control what comes into our lives or stays there, you know, the amount of damage that it could possibly do to us. And I decided to not only say those words, but I wanted to act on those words. And, you know, and I had some friends during that time, even as I was writing, this book was like a dream. You know, this is where I wanted to go. So I needed to write it. And it ended up turning into this little ebook. It's on iTunes. It's free. But so I decided I was going to start changing the people that I spend my time with. I was investing my time into a place that wasn't paying me back. And, you know, that's the difference between spending and investing. When you spend money, you get an item, you know, you get something. But when you invest, you expect a return on that money. You expect to get back, right? And so I decided that I was going to start investing time into people who knew things that I did not know, you know, who had been places that I had not been, and who were going places that I hadn't considered going. And it changes you, you know. You can live the world vicariously. And I've been a lot of places just being a Marine, lots and lots of different travels in my life. But at the same time, I haven't been everywhere, you know, and I don't know everything. And some people know it's crazy that you could sit on a bus with somebody every single day and never say anything to them. And they hold the key, the one thing that you have been wrecking your brain to find. This person holds it right there beside you, and you don't even know it, you know. And then you open the conversation. So that thought of abundance, it also has made me kind of tear down that wall that I had of mistrusting people. I just really had an issue trusting people and dealing with, because, you know, you get hurt once and then your reactions are to not be hurt again, right? And so I had that thing where I closed myself off, and I had to crack that open to help me, you know, because if I didn't let anybody else in, then nobody could help me, right? And the amount of knowledge that I've gained in travels, I couldn't reach anybody else. So what's the point of having knowledge that you don't have a student or you don't have someone to deliver it to carry it forth, right? And that's selfish, right? To me, that was selfish of me to hold everything together. Like, why not be a mentor? Why not volunteer? You know, why not go invest your time into something that is going to it doesn't have to pay me back, pay the world back, you know, pay us back as a people, as a civilization, pay us. And just the simple thought of abundance is like, okay, well, this person may hurt or give me fits or whatever it is, but you know what? There's an abundance of people that are out there to come behind them and fix it and make it twice as good as it was before.
That's true.
And that comes with just that thought, you know, there's always enough.
That's it. Yeah, there is. I read recently that abundance is like, it's like standing in a field, like a field of flowers, like you standing in a field of flowers. And if you're able to look around and acknowledge all the fields of flowers and the abundance that is surrounding you, like you get it, because it's a feeling, and it's a feeling of having an open heart and being ready to receive at all times, basically. And that ties into what you just said, once you close yourself, but you had to crack open.
Absolutely.
Because if you close, you can't receive. So it all comes from the heart as well. And that's very powerful.
Yeah. I posted a status on my Facebook saying how you'd be surprised how helping other people you'll be surprised what supporting others will do for you. And, it's 100% true. It's probably greater than that. But one of the things that I've read, and, I read this book called The Alchemist, which kind of solidified.
Yes.
I love that book.
Yes.
Think and Grow Rich. Dale Carnegie had a book out, and I listened to Oprah and Will Smith and Warren Buffett talks and just a few different TED Talks and things of that nature. And one of the things that is consistent in all of their messages, no matter what walk of life, Dale Carnegie is awesome there, Crystal.
Yes, he is.
But one of the messages that is consistent, and you would almost think that they knew each other, the way that they talk about it, giving, being generous with your time, being generous with all of these different things, because you can't hold seeds in your hand and expect to plant a forest, right? You can't keep them in your hand. You have to give them to the ground. You have to give them, let them go. And it's one of the staples. I would say that's probably one of the first things. Give something to somebody else, and the energy that just comes from it, the momentum that comes from doing something for somebody who can't do anything back for you. And that's what generosity is all about. But generosity is the seed to success, in my opinion. Because we can be selfish. We can be selfish. We were born in sin, so we can be selfish. But if we can manage to find a way to be generous, to find a way to help somebody else, then I think that our world is going to change immediately and, abroad.
That's what we're here for, and we need to understand that, because what you are doing for another, you are actually doing for yourself, because at the end of the day, we are one body and one people.
Absolutely. We are one people, and we let people create these divides for us. And in our house, we don't watch very much TV unless it's sports, and there's a reason that we don't watch very much TV is just because of the messages. Everything is fear-based, right? If I give to you, the first thing that the TV tells you to think is that I no longer have whatever it is that I gave to you, right? So, but that's not the thought process that is of the generous. That's not the thought process of the prosperous. And I think we're all put here to prosper. I think we're all supposed to be living abundantly, but we can't focus on what we lose as much as we possibly do. And you put that seed into your thought, and then your thought becomes your behaviors, and your behaviors are what you're known for.
That's true.
So we have to be very, very, purposeful in what we allow into our space. We have to insulate our happiness all the time. And two, we have to be mindful of our selfish tendencies. Yes,
that's true. For me personally, I've noticed that at every occasion I've given something to someone, be it money, my attention, a hug, a smile, they have always returned a blessing to me. Like the response was always, God bless you. And that to me, like, whoa, that, yeah, that is better than anything. And that's always what I get whenever I give something, is God bless you.
You know, I go to this church here in Charlotte. I'm not a native of Charlotte, but I've been here for about 9 years, going on 10 years now. And one of the most profound things that I've heard since I've been here is you may be the only Jesus that someone sees in their life. Right. And what that means to me is that smile that you're talking about, that may be the only smile that they see that day. You know, that hug you give, that may be the only hug that they've received this year, this month, or in their life. You know, we're all walking around with journeys that are attached to us. We've gone through something, we've fallen down, or whatever it is, but it impacts the way that we behave. And there's an abundance of people here. So we, as that abundance of people, have to remind everybody that there's an abundance of people. There's an abundance of smiles, man. You know, your day is going to be awesome. It's going to get better. There's an abundance of hugs, man, handshakes, whatever it is that you need back. And we just have a responsibility of being that for the people who may not be feeling like there's another hug in the world for them, right?
That's true.
Just being that moment, because some people don't get to witness love in their life or happiness or, you know, God, you know, so it's important that we behave that way.
It is indeed. I thank you so much. I am so grateful. Like, people don't know what we've been through to have this interview. Wow. I am so grateful that it worked out in the end, and that has been an amazing interview. Thank you so much for pouring so much knowledge. Okay, that's great, Crystal. Oh, I'm a stylist, and I do from the inside out, styling from the inside out, the inner beauty, and let it come out on the outside. That's fantastic. Yeah, so thank you very much for tuning in. And Lorenzo is an author, and he's written A Girl's Gotta Have Her Own Money, and you can find the book on Amazon.com. And I think pretty much everywhere. I got mine on Amazon.co.uk because I'm in London. So I think we can have it everywhere pretty much.
Absolutely. And you can find me on Instagram at Lorenzo Leads, and on Twitter at Lorenzo Leads as well. And just connect with me wherever you are. We can do some awesome stuff.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much for. I'm super, super excited still, even though we put an hour of work into it before we got before we got up. But I am so thankful. Thank you so much for allowing me on and doing your thing, which I love being around brilliant people. So thank you so much.
Perfect. We keep in touch. Stay blessed.
Absolutely. All right.
Bye, Crystal. Take care. Good night.
Good night.